What I'd like to do is we're going to go through this and we'll have a chance to talk about some of these concepts at the close of the day. So let's start this way. Take a look at this. What do you see? Take a very close look at this painting. What do you see? Look deep into it. Doesn't it look something like our current environment? Kind of a mess. It's chaotic. It's undefinable. This painting was done in 1948 by Jackson Pollock. It's titled number 7A. That's not what he titled it. That just happened to be the series because it was a very limited series that only is in private, mostly private homes and private museums at this point. And there's a story behind this. This is the only case example I'm going to use with you today. Pollock had a unique approach to painting, which is what I'm going to encourage you to do in your own field. Become an artist in your own field. And Pollock would do these canvases, which in real life are about 3 feet by 9 feet, most of them, very large scale. And the way he painted was not standing in front of that canvas and painting, but laying the canvas before him and walking around it and over it, dripping the paint. And he used a very specialized paint, and he knew the gravity that would have the gravitational pull on that paint so that it would form particular diagrams and unique structures. And he would let it sit there and curate for a while before he stood it back up. So he was accomplishing a couple of things here. One, unique. He was widely hailed as one of the greatest artists of all time. Again, this is 1948. His works became unique. They became extremely rare. This work here, 7A, sold in 2015 for $200 million. From the David Geffen Foundation over here to Ken Griffin, a hedge fund manager. A couple of stories behind that. A couple of things were happening. One, the painting certainly was unique. It was done by a unique artist. The quality of the painting was very unique. That still doesn't justify $200 million. But there was a very small contingent of very motivated buyers. They were dedicated and wanted to be part of this. That's why Geffen got it to be $200 million. Again, that was 2015. You can imagine what the price of it is now. There are implications in that story for what you want to look at as we move forward. Here's the sad state of things within the marketplace now. This is a chart of small business, SMBs, and it includes some large-scale business as well. The failure rate still remains abysmal. It's over 50% once you get out to a decade or more. So our failure rates are extremely high. They still continue to be, but we still keep plugging at it. So how do we differentiate ourselves from others? So that's where we've come up with this idea of next practices, and we've been pounding on this for years. And we would look at AI, we say, how are we going to apply AI across our organization? The challenge there. Let's say I have $20 million or I have $20,000. How am I going to apply AI to my organization effectively and get my money back? So let's look at perhaps how we can do that. One of the things we're up against is something called best practices. Most of you use it. It's a good technique to benchmark against each other to come up with the best of the best. Let's look at our competitors. Who is doing it best? Let's emulate that and follow that best practice. Unfortunately, that just gets us to a level of mediocrity along with our competition. So how do we make that next step that's going to truly differentiate us from the rest of the pack? Don't get me wrong. I want my surgeon, I want my pilot to be using best practices. I don't want them experimenting on me while they're trying to discover this next practice. So best practices do have a role, but how do we continue to press this, especially in the world of AI? So next practices definition is this, and this is what we've been holding to now for many years. It is processes, approaches, methods, most importantly, outcomes that will take you beyond the status quo. When you looked at that Jerry Steinfeld clip, he's got a famous line about all of us want to reach the status quo, right? We're sitting down, we can't wait to get back up. We're traveling somewhere, we can't wait to get back to our original point of origin. We are all about status quo. So how do we break past that? And that's what next practices is all about. We've got several principles. I'm not going to go through all these in the sake of time, but one of the ones on there is collaborative ecosystems, and that's what we've been putting forward across the markets now for many years, pulling industry domains together to explore what is coming next. This is very similar to Blue Ocean strategy, but the difference is this. Blue Ocean strategy asks you to look way out there at untamed market or unexplored markets, unexplored customers, very new things, new greenfield things. Next Practices is a very specific approach that says, take what you have and take it to the next level. So this is a traditional hierarchy grid, but we've modified it just a bit. And so I'm just going to take you through a couple of boxes here. And I would suggest to you this is something you can do. So when AI becomes so overwhelming, take a look at how it can be applied in this method. Let's start in that upper left-hand corner. Eliminate. How many of you remember the first few weeks of COVID before we got onto Zoom? Remember that first few weeks before we discovered Zoom and started Zooming people to death? We were sitting at home. What happened? What actually happened? People sat at home, no longer required to read the reports they had to, no longer to attend the meetings they had to go to that were non-meetings, no longer had to fill out processes that they had to do. Remember, that was a beautiful time, that first 3 to 4 weeks of COVID. We haven't been able to get back there. We were so quick to go back to status quo. Well, we'll get people on Zoom meetings all day to status each other. We'll follow these same old processes. We'll get sign-offs for buying equipment that we used to have. So we kept falling back into that same trap over and over. We had these legacy policies we keep looking at. The bureaucracy, it went away for a little bit, but then it came right back. Here's what you can do now. The biggest thing you can do for your organization is stop doing things. Just stop doing it. Take them back to that 2 or 3 week period early in COVID where they weren't doing anything or they weren't having to do these mindless tasks that weren't contributing value. And ask them again, what can we extract from our organizations to free up time, resources, and dollars? You would be amazed at how freeing that conversation is with your workforce when you're asking them to take things off of their plate, which, by the way, is an offensive tactic that you'll need in the age of AI because you want to take those things away before AI does. Get them focused on what is next beyond that is truly adding value and not just typing. The other box is the creation. Once we've eliminated things and freed up time, how do we now create new things across the organization? Again, this is where you need to go back to your organization and say, there are many things within the organization we can do differently that will save time, save resources, save money. And those ideas are out there, but we aren't tapping them. So here's the next prescription for you. The 25-26 retreat. Old idea that you don't like doing. We say we're going to do it, we don't do it, but it's necessary. And that is pulling the teams back together, taking them through a process where together as an organization, we're becoming realigned, adaptable, nimble within this marketplace. And yet we see people resisting it all the time. This is critical though. First box up there, how often do we meet? 6 months, a year? It's going to depend on the cadence of your organization. My prescription is you meet at least once every 6 months, given the pace of AI and AI platforms is 2 weeks. Forget years. Secondly, having those interviews across the leadership team. What is our understanding about where we are as an organization, our business model, and how can we make it more effective? What do the trends look like outside of our organization? Do the different scenario planning for what we're going to look like in 26, 27, that far out. How do we adapt our decision making? Someone said earlier, move beyond processes. Let's look at the outcomes and how do we get there with the decision making that will get us there faster. And then finally, the aligned execution. All right, all of that is going to be critical as we move forward. If I have to leave you with something, we don't do the strategic retreats we need to be doing. The second thing is we are all, again, going back to status quo, we like to stay in our circles. We like to stay within our industry, within our role, within our function. And yet, that is the last thing we need to be doing, particularly in the role of age of AI. And that is getting outside our industry domain, starting getting exposed to new ideas, and look for those elements that can be applied against our own business model. So with that, I leave it to you. What do you intend to do? How are you going to free up your organization, get them to stop doing things so they can start doing things that will take you forward in this exciting world that we're moving into, and turning them into your most valuable artist, just like Jackson Pollock. With that, I leave you with that, and we hope to see you at our next event, which is coming up in Q1, where we'll feature some of these ideas along with Hari at UCI. Thank you again.